Hello and welcome to this RapidDeploy 5.0 how-to guide. My name is Richard Bettison and today we're going to be looking at external resources in RapidDeploy. So external resources are created in a resource library. The resource library panel is just a list of external resources. The resources can be consumed by any project, and each resource is a pointer to a location where those artifacts reside. Now that could be an HTTP request, it could be local and remote files or folders, it could be an SCM repository, or it could be an artifact repository. And here we're showing a few examples of what sorts of things could be stored in external resources. Okay, so now let's go into RapidDeploy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and log in to RapidDeploy now. And in order to create external resources, we just literally have to click on this libraries link up here. You can see we've got an empty panel at the moment, but as we add resources, they'll get shown here. I'm going to click on Add Resource on the right-hand side there. And first I'm going to just create a very simple resource to the etc host file on the local host. So I'm going to call that hosts. The resource type is just a local file library. We'll just make the comment etc hosts. We'll create that, and when we've created that, we can see the settings tab becomes active. We click on the settings tab, and for this particular plugin we only have one field we can fill in, which is the file path, which is of course etc hosts. We'll just make that correct. Check the resource, and that resource does in fact exist, and now we can save that. And if we go back, we'll see that that resource now exists, and that can now be included in any project. Simply go to the project, and on the general tab you'll have a list of available resources. You can just drag that resource over to the selected resources, and then that will be included in your deployment package when that package is created, and every time a new package is created. And then you can do something with that on the target server. So for example, you might have a copy task that copies it and puts it somewhere on a target server. Resources will always be stored underneath the package in a resources folder, so you can always act on the resource relative to the root of the deployment package, then resources, and then whatever the name of the resource is that you have created. I'm now going to add another resource. This is going to be an external HTTP resource, so let's call that Hello World. And we're going to use this external resource in our later tutorials. This is an HTTP file library resource, so this is just pulling it from an HTTP request. So Hello World jar file, we'll create that. And I'll click on Settings. And on this one we need to just put the URL in. Let's pop that in there, and we can check that that exists as well. So it says we need a download directory, so that failed our validation error. So we'll pull it down to /temp as a sort of staging location where we'll pull it to. We'll check that resource again. Okay, so that's now valid. We can give it an alternate file name if we want to, and if we need to authenticate to get to this URL, we can do that. We can also add proxy settings here. We can also say download on target, yes or no. Now what this means is, if we say no, then we're going to include that jar file in every deployment package we create. It will be enclosed in that package. We can copy it over to the target. When we unzip that deployment package, that jar file will be in there, and we can run it and do operations on it, whatever we want to do, similar to the etc host file. And if that's set to true, then at package creation time, that jar file won't be included, but a pointer to where that jar file lives, i.e. this URL, etc., will be added into that jar file, package. And when that's copied onto the target server, we'll use that pointer to pull the package from that location, so from download.midvision.com in this case, directly onto the target server. Now that can be useful in some cases where you don't want to have the package store all of your resources, and then you create lots of those, so it uses up a lot of space, and then have to copy it not only down from the remote place where that resource is coming from onto the RapidDeploy server, but then of course it's being copied from the RapidDeploy server onto the target. This means there's only a one step instead of a two. But the disadvantage is that that target needs to be able to see this location in order to be able to pull it down from there directly. Okay, so in this case we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep it in the package, and we're just going to go, we'll save that, and we'll go back. Okay, so now we've got our two resources. Any project can consume these two resources simply by selecting them on the Project General tab, and then you can use those resources as part of your deployment. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and that's the end of this tutorial.